Professional soccer returning to the biggest little city in the world and one of my personal favorite cities in the world, Reno, Nevada. It may be on the cards, although I wouldn't get your hopes up just yet. I've encountered quite a few Reno 1868 FC supporters over the years, and all of them couldn't speak highly enough of that team. As a Sac Republic fan, I definitely miss having a team in Reno around. I got the flag to pack it up, right? So when I heard there was a group looking to not only bring the USL back to Reno, but also build a soccer-specific stadium in the city, I wasn't that excited because it kind of seems like we've been here before a few times now. In fact, an attempt at reviving soccer in the city has become a tradition, much like Hot August Nights or the Keno runner who covers the top deck at Cal Neva being entirely too slow. Oh my God. I don't know, but let's get the let out Keno at Cal Neva. Okay. Soccer in Reno, though. I'm going to keep this on track, or at least try to. Believe it or not, this is now the third time in 3 years a Reno to the USL group and talks of a new stadium have been rolled out. Let's start with the most recent one, the one that happened last week. Reno Pro Soccer, this new group, came out and said that they were in talks about getting a USL franchise and that they were actually going to build that soccer-specific stadium at Reno at the old Jones West Ford site. They've apparently already bought the land, and the stadium is allegedly, their goal is to have it ready by the 2027 season. It's a perfectly acceptable location. It's not the best location or the most exciting location. Some people will definitely complain about it, but it's not like they're putting it out in the sticks. It's not like it's by the Gold Ranch Casino way out there or anything. And oh my God, the Gold Ranch Casino. Why is it every time I go in there, and I've been in there at least a dozen times over the years, they are only playing the song Fresh by Kool and the Gang. It's so weird. But, speaking of fresh, speaking of exciting, I would say pro soccer returning to Reno is certainly both, especially if it were to return in its very own soccer-specific stadium. If it was done right, if the people behind the bid were serious. The thing is, we've kind of heard this song before. No, not that song. I'm talking about the song of professional soccer coming back to Reno. In fact, if we look at some of the group behind Reno Pro Soccer, we'll see others involved with previous bids. First and foremost, the money figure here appears to be Todd Davis, not LifeLock CEO Todd Davis, but Todd Davis of Precision Optical Technologies, a company that produces various optical networking equipment. The company was sold last year for almost $300 million, which is why I assume Davis has some money to get this effort off the ground, but he didn't get all of that $300 million. He got some money, but I don't know how much money he actually has here. Look, I don't know enough about Todd Davis. He does have an interest in soccer. He does have a background with the sport. He probably needs to be a bit more public facing here. And I think everyone's going to want some clarity when it comes to his financial ability in getting a soccer club off the ground. Herb Simon, who is a billionaire, punted on this in Reno. He didn't want to be bothered with a stadium, and I'm just not entirely sure if this is Davis's endeavor alone. He's got the funds to get it going. If Davis is the money man here, then Wendy DeMonte is sort of the public face of Reno Pro Soccer here. And she, of course, is no stranger to the city of Reno. She was on TV forever. She is a UNR alum as well, very well known in the community. There's also Bob Inzenberger, who looks to be the legal person in all of this. I really don't know why he's involved or why he's one of the public facing figures in this effort, but he's there. And then you also have John Doyle, former USMNT defender, well-known figure in American soccer circles, was GM of the San Jose Earthquake. But honestly, he's not important here because they could have picked any former player or executive. He's just there to do the soccer stuff if it hypothetically gets off the ground. I want to focus on Wendy DeMonte and Bob Inzenberger because they also happen to be involved in an effort to bring pro soccer and a soccer-specific stadium to Reno last year. That was an extraordinarily contentious, poorly conceived, and ultimately futile effort, which left a lot of people scratching their heads, especially around what the hell DeMonte and Inzenberger were doing. Let's talk about their 4R fan Friends Foundation, FOFF, I guess that would be the acronym here. Doesn't matter. The FOFF's bid or idea was that they were going to build a $40 million soccer stadium out at South Valley's Regional Park, and boy, oh boy, did this go poorly. It went poorly because FOF was a nonprofit trying to run what appeared to be a needlessly complex shell game. Basically, land around the park had been donated to Washoe County for public use and outdoor recreation. FOF was proposing this really sweetheart deal where they would receive a lease on the land for 20 years with 20-year extensions in place at an extremely cut rate price. I have heard and seen online the lease agreement was going to be as low as $1 a year. That's not confirmed in some of the documents you'll find online. Price hasn't been filled out yet, but this was a group, because it was a nonprofit, wasn't going to be paying a hell of a lot to lease the land over at South Valley's Regional Park. But here's the kicker. FOF was then going to sublease that land to a private entity to build the stadium and operate the stadium, because FOF didn't have any of these capabilities or capacities. They were just some recently created nonprofit organization. So people did not like this, because FOF was basically serving as some sort of middleman, the wolf in sheep's clothing, trying to play Washoe County. The thing was, just about everyone saw right through this.
And as a nonprofit coming in and saying, I'm going to make money off of what you donated.
Like, Reno was completely unified in its disdain for this attempt to build a soccer stadium. And DeMonte in particular received a lot of blowback and a lot of criticism because he was one of the most public-facing figures of this effort, an effort most viewed as disingenuous, and it just flamed out spectacularly. The only thing more preposterous, more outlandish than that attempt to build a soccer stadium through a nonprofit working with a private entity is my plan to redevelop the Sundowner and restore it to its legacy again, get that sleeping cowboy sign up. I mean, look, here's the deal. My plan is totally ridiculous. I'm wildly unqualified to do any such thing, but I would never ever ask for public funds or a sweetheart lease agreement from Washoe County. If I'm going to go through with my terrible redevelopment plan for the Sundowner, it's going to be on my dime. Bring back the sleeping cowboy. Anyway, as it relates to soccer in Reno and teams and stadiums, I'm just not entirely sure why any group would want or need Wendy DeMonte or Bob Enzenberger involved, especially because they still have the stink of that failed FOF experiment on them. Beyond that, though, it's not like either has much in the way of political stroke. It's not like they're bringing anything financial related to the table, unless they're going to be responsible. I guess DeMonte could maybe try some fundraising stuff. I don't know. It just feels really utterly pointless to get them involved with this project because they don't have or offer Todd Davis anything. Of course, FOF was sort of built on the failure of Battleborn FC and their attempts to build a huge spiraling soccer complex across from Truckee Meadows Community College. That project was equally as dodgy, but in a different kind of way. The owner of that project, Mark Ridow, came out in 2023 and talked a really big game about how this was going to be a game changer for soccer in Reno, and it was going to be entirely privately financed, which a lot of people, of course, could get behind. There was some actual buzz behind it, probably far more than FOF ever received, because, of course, the private financing, and there are going to be multiple fields. There's going to be this, again, a soccer complex that had a lot of different ways to support youth soccer as well as professional soccer in Washoe County. The problem was with that private financing. Ridow didn't have the money, and his attempts to find other people to invest went nowhere. I mean, the project was supposed to break ground in May of 2024. It received all the approvals it needed from the city and county, but groundbreaking never happens. Then people become curious as to what exactly is happening, and when people start sniffing around Ridow and his plans for Battleborn FC, like, the entire thing comes tumbling down like a house of cards. Turns out Ridow had a fraud case and a few other lawsuits where he's accused of mishandling funds. He may or may not have also been taking money for parents for the kids to play on youth teams that never played a game. Oddly enough, though, the paths of Battleborn FC and the 4R Founds Foundation recreation stadium efforts would actually cross paths in summer of 2004. It happened during a July Washoe County Open Space and Regional Parks Commission meeting. Riddell actually turns up and speaks at the meeting. He kind of even tears up a little bit, recounting the tale of how his kids will no longer be able to use the park if that project gets built. His photo and the story of his impassioned plea to defend the park was actually put in the Reno Gazette-Journal. I shit you not. Of course, we all know this was Riddell trying to keep his own soccer stadium project alive. He wanted to kill the South Valley's regional park plan to keep Battleborn FC's plan alive. So he just went there, told some sad tale, trying to tug on a few heartstrings for self-preservation and business reasons mostly. I was so astounded to see this, and even more astounded that no one actually brought up Riddell's connection to Battleborn FC. This, folks, by the way, is what research gets you. Anyway, I want to talk a little bit about Todd Davis because I'm really rooting for this project. I would love to see Reno have professional soccer once again. And I think the city does probably need a soccer-specific stadium. Or not probably, it does need a soccer-specific stadium. The Reno 1868 FC experience was a great one, and the city is hungry for pro soccer, but playing at Greater Nevada Ballpark just wasn't a feasible solution long-term, and Herb Simon just didn't want to pursue getting a facility built. But I do go back and watch the Reno 1868 FC promotional video they shot on Virginia Street. It's such an amazing promotional video, and I think is something that shows what club soccer in Reno can be. Like, there's a track record here. It's not a new market where you're trying to get something off the ground. Like, this is a place where the sport can thrive. I mean, hell, anytime anyone sees this flag and remembers Reno 1868 FC, they remind me about it. They tell me like, oh man, I really miss that club. I really wish Reno had soccer. Like, it's a proven commodity. To that extent, if Todd Davis is really serious, then I would like to share a couple of pieces of advice. Firstly, the stadium needs to be privately financed entirely. I know they haven't been particularly transparent on how they want to fund the new stadium. They did buy the land, but even on their own website, it's very unclear. But you get a sneaking suspicion they want some sort of public support for the project. The thing is, we know the public's going to vote down any stadium proposal in Reno. Like, it's a non-starter. And I don't believe taking the same avenue Artie Morello did with his Grand Sierra Resort Reno, where they finagled it so there wouldn't be a public vote, is a particularly good way to go. It's just hard to build goodwill. This is supposed to be a community-driven club, and for that to be true, you don't want to do things that are perceived as going behind the community's back. And I mean, people are still kind of upset about how that whole Artie Morello business went down at Grand Sierra Resort. So the stadium, getting the club to Reno, it needs to be done through the ownership group. It needs to be done through your team and your team alone. Now, this isn't to say the community can't be involved. In fact, we have seen a lot of minor pro sports teams opt for some sort of form of public ownership, raising funds through selling a stake in the club. And I think that's a potential way to go. The Oakland Roots, obviously, we've seen quite a few teams now sort of in lower levels of professional sports ask the public, like, do you want to be a part of this? Do you want a stake in the team? And these fundraising efforts can be hugely successful. Now, ownership groups aren't always keen on having fans hold a stake in the club, but I do really think it's a positive step to take. Hell, I'd be the first to invest $1,000 in that club today, and I'd let you come on here and talk about the club and what you want to build, whatever you want to do. Like, it would be your form because I would want it to be a success as an owner. And I think similarly, the people of Reno, if they were allowed to invest in this club and this stadium, they would equally be as committed to its success. But to that extent, you got to get rid of Wendy DeMonte and Bob Inzenberger. Why are these people involved? They aren't going to help you, and I would hazard to guess a lot of people in Reno are still pretty pissed at the scheme they tried to run last year when it came to soccer in the city. Ultimately, there are a lot of question marks surrounding this attempt to bring pro soccer back to Reno, and there are a few reasons to be optimistic, even if some of the people involved aren't exactly good. I mean, I don't know what you want me to say here, but there are some dubious characters involved here. And I guess worst case scenario, even if this goes nowhere, well, we pretty much can set our watches to pro soccer efforts in Reno. So if this flames out, if this goes poorly, well, around this time next year, another one will pop up. It's a process seemingly stuck on repeat, just like Coolin' the Gang's Fresh over at the Gold Ranch Casino. Speaking of exciting, I can't wait to get back up to Reno in a few weeks' time. It is one of my favorite places to visit in all of the world, and maybe one day I'll get to visit when they have another professional soccer team playing there in its very own stadium. Anyway, thank you for watching this video. If you would like to know more about the team in South Carolina defying expectations and finding success in the footprint of not one but two MLS clubs, check out the video in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. Until next time, I'm Shine Hollis. This is Touchback, and as always, hashtag take it out the 25.